Someone thought they were going to destroy black people. They came all the way to Africa to capture the best of us. They murdered elders and children with the aim of confiscating resources and separating families. They believed in their hearts that if they did this, that black people would be too fractured ever to survive. They convinced themselves that if they transported half the people halfway around the world, then neither half would ever prosper. They told each other that these people were weak and fragile and inferior and intelligent and frail and feeble and ugly and undesirable and unholy and unfit for God's glory. They wrote books that spoke of Africans as uncivilized and primitive and substandard and illiterate and ignorant. They made jokes about coarse, kinky, nappy hair and large, flat, massive noses and big, wide, flat feet and large, round, bulbous behinds. These other people called African spiritual systems witchcraft and devil worship and voodoo and wizardry and black magic. They called Africans niggers and colors and blacks and Negroes and every other name that meant everything except divinity. They packed Africans on boats and sent them around the world. But first they scattered them throughout the Atlantic Ocean like a farmer planting seed. They fed our ancestors' bodies to sharks and never thought about the anger the waters inhabited. Since then, hurricanes swirl annually, trying to tell the world that somebody threw black saviors into the water. But since Americans don't read history, they miss the signs. Some black people miss it too. These captors took black bodies and set them up on auction blocks. They sold them like meat at a market, per ounce, per pound, per glistening black form. They touched them to see which ones they wanted. They imagined in their sordid hearts the sexual ecstasy black bodies might solicit. They chose particular African men and women whose bodies they admired. They did not take everyone. They took the ones they thought could work and satisfy their sinister lusts. But most of all, they believed the strength of Africa was over, that it was done, that it would be no more. They concluded that the rape of Mother Africa was complete, total, all-embracing, a done deal. But I came here, UMOJA, to tell you that they didn't know who the hell they captured. They didn't understand that Africans are stronger in death than in life. They didn't know that a seed will bloom wherever you plant it. They did not know, actually, that they came to Africa to find their Savior. That's why we fell in love with Jesus, not because we needed a Savior, but because we were Saviors, and we knew the rules of resurrection. See, they thought that if they changed our names, they would change our story. They thought that if they gave us their names, we would no longer be ourselves. They thought that if Olufemi and Abena and Alatanga and Chisanganda and Ndaye and Akili and Bataraishe and Tamati and Binta and Kwame and Kunta became Sally and Ella Mae and Joe and Charles and Betty and Frank and Jane, that we would have no strength, that we'd become like them. They didn't know that our spirits were bigger than our names. They didn't know that we loved character before we loved Christ. They didn't know that we'd take their language and create our own nicknames. Cookie and Pookie and Little Bit and Big Mama and Nana and Pumpkin. They didn't know that we turned their language upside down, inside out, until we said what we wanted to say. They didn't know that we were the keepers of Nomo, that every time we opened our mouth, a creation ushered forth. They thought that if they paid money for our flesh, they owned us. They thought that if they sold babies away from screaming mothers' arms, that they could defeat us. They really believed that if they held black fathers back like cornered lions, they had crushed us. They actually convinced themselves that if they beat us long enough, hard enough, harshly enough, that we would stop fighting. But they didn't know who the hell they had captured. They didn't know who we were. See, what they didn't know is that we knew God before we knew them. We understood the movement of the sky. We studied astrology and astronomy. We invented geometry and trigonometry and the calculus. We spoke to ancestors across time and space. We understood the difference between the brain and the mind. We knew the difference between the spirit and the soul. We understood the difference between life and living. They didn't strip us of Africa. They stripped us of artifacts. Everything that is Africa came with us. Kente cloth is sort of African, but what's really African is the ability to weave it. Dancing is not really African. What's really African is to do it polyrhythmically. Doing hair is not really African. Doing meticulous cornrows is African. So meticulous that we can braid your name into your head. This is how you know who we is. See, somebody really thought they were going to destroy black people. They didn't really understand. See, we're actually far greater now than we've ever been. Instead of weaving cloth, we piece quilts. Instead of beating drums, we stomp the earth. Instead of foo-foo and cuckoos, we make dresses and succotash. Instead of dancing Manjani and Sorcenet, we do the cakewalk, the lindy, the smurf, the crump, the pop. Instead of mothers wrapping their hair in cloth, our mothers wore church hats which you had better not touch. See, we simply had to transmute and synthesize material. They didn't know that they brought people all the way across the Atlantic who already knew who we were. Y'all, we are the waymakers, the dream shakers, the heavy load sharers, the mighty spirit carriers. They didn't know who the hell they captured. See, the worst mistake they made was to steal seed from Africa and make us the farmers. We knew that whatever we planted would sprout and multiply. We understood the agreement between the earth and the rain and the wind and the sun. And we knew that agreement would be honored wherever we were taken. Somebody really thought they were going to destroy black people. They thought the invasion of Africa would do it. Then they thought the Middle Passage would do it. Then they thought that throwing half of us into the ocean would do it. Then they thought selling us auction blocks would do it. Then they thought beating us would do it. Then they thought separating our families would do it. Then they thought raping our bodies would do it. Then they thought hanging us from trees would do it. Then they thought denying our rights would do it. Then they thought making us sharecrop would do it. Then they thought accepting us into a military and paying us nothing would do it. Then they thought making our women into maids would do it. Then they thought keeping us out of their schools would do it. Then they thought hosing us down in the streets would do it. Then they thought putting us in the projects would do it. Then they thought overcharging us in the suburbs would do it. Then they thought calling us niggas would do it. Then they thought killing our men in Vietnam would do it. Then they thought twisting facts in history books would do it. Then they thought paying our kids to call themselves niggas would do it. Then they thought police brutality would do it. Then they thought police brutality would do it. Then they thought police brutality would do it. Then they thought keeping us from voting would do it. But I got a secret to tell y'all. Ain't nothing in the world gonna do it. But they didn't know who the hell they captured. Because God looks just like us. Listen, y'all. If somebody was going to destroy black people, they waited too late. Because if black people sing, we going to dance. And if we dance, we going to conjure. And if we conjure, the spirit is coming. And when the spirit comes, every pain and every heartache, every difficulty, every loss, every trial, every sorrow, every heartache, every agony, every distress, every despair, every misery, every sadness, and every gloom is going to be replaced with joy unspeakable and power immeasurable and courage inconceivable. And soon the world will see that Africans were sent on a mission around the world to teach the world how to be human. We were sent all the way around the world to teach the world what God really looks like. See, really, I came to tell you today that you don't need permission to have a revolution. All you got to do is keep your eye on God. See, y'all, the most frightening thing in America is a conscious black mind. Our ancestors gave their lives for the right to read and write. They ran hundreds of miles for freedom to think and conceive their own destiny. They understood that knowledge is power. But they also understood that it ain't free. It was costly. It was expensive. It was hard-earned. It was difficult to acquire. And if America had its way, black folks would never have had it. But America didn't have its way. We learned to read when it was against the law. We learned to read when plantation owners forbade it. We learned to read when people said we weren't smart enough. We learned to write, and then we wrote our own freedom. We wrote treaties against our bondage. We wrote narratives about our lives in chains. We literally wrote our way to liberty. See, I really come to tell you today that, y'all, we don't need permission to have a revolution. We gained our freedom and this government didn't agree. They didn't agree. We didn't need them to agree. We didn't need others to agree that we were human. We didn't need others to agree that our lives mattered. We didn't need others to tell us that we were the children of God. We didn't need others' permission for us to believe we deserved equality. We are the descendants of resistance. We have fight in our blood. We have DNA, strength in our DNA. It's who we are. Brown versus Board set a legal precedent for black children to be educated in public schools, but Brown versus Board is not the beginning of black striving for knowledge. We've been doing that since we stepped foot in the land of white supremacy. Educating our children is our job, nobody else's job. Nobody can do that but us. We don't need them to agree to this revolution. They didn't agree with Harriet and she ran anyway. They didn't agree with Sojourner and she saved us anyway. They didn't agree with Frederick Douglass and he wrote books anyway. They didn't agree with Nat Turner or Demar Vesey or Gabriel Prosser or Nat Turner and they led rebellions anyway. They didn't agree with Shirley Chisholm or James Baldwin or Zora Neale Hurston or Malcolm or Martin or Medgar or Fannie Lou Hamer or Satchel Paige or Joe Louis or Madam C.J. Walker or Rosa Parks or King or Eunice Johnson or Gwendolyn Brooks or Kwame Nkrumah or Patrice Lumumba or Byron Weston or Annie Lee Cooper or Jesse Owens or Ethel Waters or James Brown or Billie Holiday or Carter G. Woodson or Julian Bond or Charles Hamilton Houston or Thurgood Marshall or Ida B. Wells. They didn't agree with Bloody Sunday, but it came anyway. They didn't agree with the Harlem Renaissance, but it came anyway. They didn't agree with the Black Arts Movement, but it came anyway. They didn't agree with the March on Washington, but it came anyway. They didn't agree with the Black Panthers, but they fed black children anyway. They didn't agree with the Holy Ghost, but it keeps on coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and coming. Because that's who we are. We are people coming people. But y'all, if we're going to have a revolution, you can't ask nobody's permission. That's why we gathered today, to figure out our role in the revolution. What part will you play? Will you gather books as weapons? Will you sit children at your feet and tell them the real story of what happened after we crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge? What will you do? What will you do? What will you do? Why is you here? What is you doing? What is you here for? That's why we gathered, to really ask you one question. Why are you here? And to tell you really, truly, you cannot fail. You cannot give up. You cannot resign. You cannot agree to a lesser destiny. You cannot turn around. You cannot decide you don't want it anymore. You cannot sigh and change direction. You cannot renegotiate your purpose. You young people cannot rearrange God's dream of you. You cannot neglect your calling. You cost too much. Too much blood was spilled for you to throw in the towel. Don't you know the ancestors met and discussed your life before this life? Don't you know somebody prayed for you before you were even you? Don't you get it? Angels are shifting their feet, nervous about whether you'll finish the race. They're whispering, will she finish it? Will she finish it? Oh, come on, that brother's got to do it. He's got to do it. Come on, brother, you got to do it. Don't you know that all those spirits who jumped overboard in the middle passage, they know your name. Their hope is all over you. You cannot fail. I'm sorry to pressure you this way, young people. Sorry to tell you that you don't have a choice, but let me say something to you. You ain't got no choice. Generations are being conceived at this very hour with the belief that your genius will open the way for their genius. So I'm sorry, you cannot fail. The future of black people rests upon your excellence, and this is what you are. Excellence personified. You are the hope and dream of slaves who never saw freedom. You are the completion of the beginning of the resurrection. You are heaven's expectation. You are the devil's greatest fear. That's because your success happened even though circumstances could have destroyed it. In fact, they were sent to do exactly that, but they failed. They faltered. They crumbled. They disintegrated before your very eyes. For every A you made, your obstacles got a little weaker and a little weaker until they collapsed and gave way to the cheering and celebration and festivity and jamboree that your excellence solicited. That's why you cannot fail, because people don't love excellence anymore. They tolerate pretty good and okay and not bad and it'll do. But young geniuses, mediocrity won't do. Half-ass work won't do.
That's right. That's right.
Thrown together work won't get it. Guessing won't get you to the finish line. Somebody has to know what they're talking about. Somebody has to grind when others are asleep. Come on, young black men and young black women. Come on black fluidity. Come on, black trans siblings. Yes. Get in the tradition of Frederick Douglass and Langston Hughes and James Baldwin and Richard Wright and Amiri Baraka and Richard Allen. Come on, show the world that they've thrown some ancestors overboard, but their children have resurrected to claim them and show the world the power of resurrected black blood. Come on, you young black soldiers, get in the tradition. As long as there are black people, there shall be transformation. Don't let your circumstances dictate your possibilities. Don't let your past determine your tomorrow. I challenge you young people to believe that you were born black and beautiful and divine, to believe that God thought long and hard about your majesty, to know that your mother and father, big mama and pawpaw, aunties and uncles and homegirls and road dogs poured all their hopes and dreams into you because you are the one. That's right, you in this room, you are the one. I challenge somebody in this room to out-sing Aretha Franklin. I challenge someone in this room to outrun Usain Bolt, to write more books than Richard Wright, to compose more music than Quincy Jones, to play more instruments than Prince, to create more moves than Michael Jackson. I challenge you to love harder than your mother, to give more freely than your father. I challenge somebody in this room to outpray your grandmother, to dunk far more balls than LeBron. I challenge somebody in this room to shoot more three-pointers than Steph Curry. I challenge you to change more political systems than Stacey Abrams, to do more justice than Thurgood Marshall, to march longer and harder than King. I challenge you to run to your promise like Harriet Tubman ran to freedom, to read like DeMoss read, to fight for righteousness like Nat Turner. I challenge you to outright Kendrick Lamar, to drop more bars than J. Cole, or Drake, or Lizzo, or Jay-Z, or Lil Wayne, or Megan Thee Stallion, or Glorilla. I challenge someone in this room to out-preach T.D. Jakes, to out-dance Beyonce, to stand more boldly than Shirley Chisholm, to become a greater president than Barack Obama. I challenge you to write more beautifully than Toni Morrison, and to teach her more resplendent metaphors. Somebody among you is funnier than Chris Rock and Kevin Hart combined. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? They're in this room. I see you. You are here, and your job is to walk more gracefully, to walk more gracefully than your elders, to have more dignity than Morgan Freeman. Your job, sons and daughters of the midnight sky, is to lift your heads everywhere you go and never believe you ain't supposed to be there. See, you are the dark and the lovely, the black and the holy. You are commissioned to teach the world what integrity looks like, to demonstrate in the midst of supremacy the power of black unity and collective strength. You are the dream of the ancestors. Poverty didn't stop you. Death didn't make you quit. A drug-addicted mother wasn't enough for your failure. An emotionally unavailable father was just a little hurdle you had to climb. A discouraging teacher didn't change your promise. One bad grade didn't keep you from graduation. A boyfriend or a girlfriend's rejection didn't make God change God's mind about you. You are the seeds of the great baobab tree. Everything you need is in you. If you want to heal, go within. If you want to forgive, go within. If you want a new attitude, go within. But don't ever believe that you ain't enough, because you were born complete. There is nothing to add to you, nothing to alter about you, nothing to rearrange within you, nothing to fix. You are our hope perfected, our faith manifested, our joy complete. Stand up, black children, and claim your inheritance. Step forth, black children, and understand